Did you do any martial arts before BJJ?
I actually did. I didn't do any grappling before. When I was around 11 or 12, my sister and I started training, and actually my mom even jumped into classes at this local martial arts school. They were a karate gym, and I was training there for about 4 years. I actually made it to purple belt. What about you?
Before I started jiu-jitsu, the most immediate sport I played right before jiu-jitsu was hockey. I was on the UC Davis roller hockey team.
This question is, did you do any martial arts before jiu-jitsu?
Or any other sports.
Oh,
there's a second part.
Oh,
Can you read?
I can't.
There's
nope.
a two-part question.
Oh, okay. Whoops, I forgot the second part. All right, I'll come back to it.
Welcome to another episode of Jiu Jitsu Ponderings with David.
And my name's Lauren. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. Rapid fire questions?
Rapid fire questions.
Let's get going.
Let's go. Let's get started. Oh, enjoy our new background. I'm sure it's going to be changing a few times as we go through this process. So hope you like it. Let us know.
Yeah, give us feedback.
Yeah. All right. I'll start with the first one. Favorite pre or post training snack?
I often do not eat a whole lot before or even honestly after, but one of my things I've been doing lately is there's something called UCAN, which gives like basically already pre-digested or like you don't have to digest it energy. And I used to have a powder mix, and I still do for like competitions and stuff like that, but they also come in like a little small gel pack, and I've been doing that, and that seems to help give like energy before I train. So
nice.
That's and it's kind of tasty. What's your favorite, pre or post? Mm-hmm. Oh wait, my post is a nice lovely kombucha.
Kombucha.
It hits different after trainos.
I definitely feel like I low-key, what's the term where you Pavloved myself, where I would finish evening training and then I would walk over to the grocery store and get a kombucha. And so every time training was done, I was like, I crave kombucha. And yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, exactly. It is really good. Just like a sparkling beverage. It's just like very pleasant. I would say I don't really have a favorite, but I like to be ideally at least somewhat fed before I train, banana or I just had some cottage cheese toast, like post-training, but I would do that pre-training too. Just try to have something in the
especially
gas tank.
Carbohydrates. You want that's like what's gonna fuel your workout, especially training. You expend so much energy and stuff.
I would do low-key tell myself after training, I'm like, if I'm gonna have something sweet, now is the time. And so like we finished training and we had some leftover apple pie, and that definitely hit pretty good.
Nice.
Yes. All right. On a scale of half asleep to fully cracked out, what's your daily caffeine intake like?
Fully cracked out.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I spoke for you, it would be fully cracked out. Not that you present that way, but that it's an impressive amount of caffeine.
I think I'm not that. I mean, you build us up like a what's it called, tolerance for caffeine. But I think I'm not that sensitive to begin with, and for various reasons, yeah, my caffeine intake is very very high, and my two preferred caffeine modalities is oat milk lattes, which we make here, which are the best in the world.
David's are better
Not
than mine.
Controversial at all.
Not
It's
controversial.
it's just true. And then yerba mate tea, I like that a lot. The cold version.
I would say I'm somewhere in the middle, where I definitely make sure that I have a latte in the morning, even if unfortunately I have to make it because mine just are just slightly not as good as yours for whatever reason. And around 2 p.m. I'll usually just be crashing out and I need some kind of caffeine. Hello, Logan. You're so cute. The latte and the yerba mate is definitely the business.
Yep.
Yes. And some shot block things. Yeah, those are nice.
those
Those
are
are
good.
actually, going back, that's probably my favorite pre-training treat because it's just enjoyable to eat gummies
Yes.
and be like, they're good for me. Yes. All right.
Logan wants to be involved.
Logan's involved. He's in.
All right.
Add him to the dog counter that we'll have one day.
All right. Do you prefer mount or back control?
Historically, I prefer mount because I just wasn't very good at holding on to the back. And, you know, I think I'm starting to like the back a little bit more. It feels, you know, it's an interesting thing of trying to be patient and trying to get that kind of, I don't know if they actually call it straitjacket sort of control of like opposite grips. But once I get there, I feel pretty confident to be able to like pass a hand behind the back. And so that feels pretty good. What about you?
For sure, mount. I'm much better on the mount. Not only do I have superior control in comparison to my back control, I have a lot of submission attacks. And a lot of them, I don't really like to go for, say, like the mount arm bar, unless I really have it. I like getting, you know, shoulders up, like their hands up, their arms above their head, and then isolating for either Kimura, Americana. There you go, Americana. I had
American's Wave.
American's Wave.
That was the best thing. Shout out to Ashley for telling me you remember Americana because American's Wave and Kimura is just different.
Because Kimurans do that?
No, you just remember American's Wave. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, love that one.
Sweet.
Yes.
Anyway, or straight arm bars and stuff like that. So mount for sure. I have good mount retention. The back, I kind of struggle with finishing people from the back. I can generally control relatively well, and it's getting better. I'll give a shout out. There's this grip where you're grabbing, like you're trying to, instead of grabbing the wrist from the inside, you grab the outer blade of their pinky finger and you hold that there and you can reinforce. Cole showed it to me in one of his, like, right before class musings. He's like, hey, let me show you this real quick. And then, like, there's a sick wrist lock from there.
Nice.
And so it's bonus points for good control and
evil submissions.
I love wrist locking people. It's great. Yeah.
Nice. I will say that I think if I can get to spiderweb, like the mount armbar attacks, that's probably my favorite place to submit people from.
If I can get there confidently without like creating a scramble, totally. And I will definitely go there. I just would rather maintain control in general, but like I'll certainly go there. And then I've been doing, rather than a full rear naked, of course I can do it. But against better people, it's harder to. I've been doing a one arm, like more shallow. And that's been getting me a lot of success. And then between that grip and shallow one arm rear nakeds, I can get those. But still, comparatively, success way more on the mount.
I think now from the back, that's actually how I'm tending to get to spiderweb. Is because I'm like underhooking an arm and then I'm kicking over their head.
That makes sense.
So yeah, that's feeling easier than, like, most people are just, they're strong and there's still things that I'm working on where their ability to like push me off is like high. Very annoying. Anyway. All right. What is one of your favorite things to do for recovery, physical or mental?
Definitely my hot tub.
Hot tub.
I love the hot tub. Not only is it wonderful because it's a hot tub. I mean, I like being outside where we live because it's beautiful. And it's just like, it's really nice to just hop in. I like the hot tub too, and more so than like hot baths. I think the only benefit to hot baths that is present is that you can put in like Epsom salt and stuff like that, whether you like them smelling good or not. Like that can help with recovery. But it's so nice to just be like, oh, like, I'm gonna go hot tub and like just hop in. It's already heated, it's there. So that's really nice. What is one thing you like to do for recovery?
I think my favorite thing is probably sleep. But especially if I can get, you know, that lazy Sunday kind of sleep where you just like keep sleeping pretty late into the morning, that is really awesome. I would second the hot tub is pretty sweet. Apparently the sauna is slightly more optimal health-wise, but I don't know, there's just something, the hot tub doesn't feel like you're suffering, you know. Sauna, you're like suffering a little bit.
Yeah, we have an infrared sauna and a hot tub because that's how we roll.
Yep.
And once we got the hot tub, the sauna was not used that much anyway, but then it's definitely almost never used.
Yeah. We use it, I would say I jump to it more when I'm sick. Like I try to prioritize it.
No, that's
in that time, or if I'm congested and
you
stuff.
should. I think that's really smart.
Yeah. I would I think if we just have to organize our garage a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite music to train to?
I think it it depends on the vibe for sure. The last time, I always feel very anxious about choosing music though, because I'm worried that other people won't like it. And my music taste can be a little bit weird. So, I'm trying to remember the last time I got to choose the music. Oh God, what is it called? I sent you the one track. They have a song called Doughboy, and I would say it's like white person hip hop. And very humorous lyrics, but it's got some 90s throwback kind of sound effects and such. And so that was pretty enjoyable to train to, where I like a lot of different metal, but it puts things in a kind of heated state, it feels a little more intense. And I used to really like when a different coach would put on kind of like EDM, like music you'd hear in like a CrossFit class. That was like, oh yeah, let's go. Like that helps, I feel like, keep my energy high. But I know some people are just, that's not their jam. But yeah, I would say there's something in those, the rap, hip hop, some metal, some white person rap hip hop or EDM vein. Yeah.
Just like this.
Yeah, just this large thing.
70% of all genres.
Yeah, exactly. Just not country or pop music or stuff where I'm like, I should be going to sleep right now.
Well, I went, most of my training, we actually didn't listen to music when we trained. So I'm fine with no music. But I think I like rap, hip hop, especially like Yay area, like the Bay Area type music. It's just fun. And then, I do like techno and whatnot, certain kinds of techno, especially when it's like mashed up with like somewhat popular songs is pretty cool. But I'd say like my favorite is rap, hip hop.
Nice. All right.
Wait. I want to ask this first because I have my answer.
Okay.
If there was an animal that exemplified your jiu-jitsu, what animal would you be?
I'm going to tell what David's animal is, and
Yes.
David is going to tell what my animal
Yes.
is. Yes. Okay, yeah, we've been excited for this question. So I was trying to think of what's something that's like a psychologically assaulting attack. And one of my ideas for you was a mantis shrimp. Because they snap their claw and it creates a literal sonic boom that that knocks out the fish that are within enough of a radius of damage. And I think it's a very unusual attack and it's psychologically assaulting. And they're very bright and colorful and, pretty fabulous. So that's my answer for you.
And fun fact of the day, they can see the most colors out of any creature in the world.
I will say that one's somewhat ironic given that you're colorblind. So
Partially
colorblind, yes.
Relax.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, so that was the best answer I could think for you.
Okay, mine is you are a rabid possum.
Rabid possum. Nice.
Yes.
Not play dead possum. Rabid possum.
Rabid.
Why am I a rabid possum?
Because of your tenacity and the fact that like you don't take any gruff and you'll just keep going and attacking. So
that's fair. That's legit. Okay. What is one book that you frequently recommend?
I think we're gonna have to come back to this because there are many. My silly preface to this is I think giving book recommendations is something very personal, and I think it's not literally intimate, but I think it's like really important to know like what is someone looking for from a book recommendation. And kind of funny enough, like a lot of people ask me about books and like suggestions too and whatnot. But if I were to just kind of generalize it or just pick one that's jiu-jitsu related, I think one of the books that I have recommended the most frequent for like mental framework and like performance is Chop Wood, Carry Water. It's a very short book, which is also really nice. Like if you're listening to it, I think it's like 2.5 hours. I've listened to and re-listened to it quite a few times. The premise is silly, really ridiculous. It's like some guy that wants to, you want to scoot over? It's some guy that wants to become like a samurai archer. And so he goes to, leaves the Western world and goes to presumably Japan and, enters into this whole like program to become a samurai archer. And so that's a little bit silly. But the tidbits of wisdom and stuff like that along the way from the master are just super, super good. And like the chapters are very short. It's very like poignant and like hard hitting really, really frequently. And what I would do is sometimes I would the first time I kind of like went through it fairly quickly, but when on my rereads, it takes a long time. Because I'll listen to one or maybe two chapters and I'll kind of reflect on it a little bit. And so I think that, again, premise is a little weird, but the bits of wisdom are just fantastic. And it's also easily accessible. Because I think one challenge with like giving advice for books is if it's like a 14-hour book, or that equivalent, it's going to be really hard to get people to
I hope you can see the dog while we're talking.
I don't think he's in
just found a random like gardening glove or something.
Is this your gardening glove, baby?
It looks almost like a golf glove.
Cool. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
What about you? While we're doing this is Team Chaos.
This is Team Chaos. Yes. I like how you started off that response with something very. This is my philosophy on how I give books. So I just wanted to point that out. Hilarious.
It's important,
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, totally.
Because like if someone's like, "Hey, I want a book recommendation," even for just a genre, like someone recently was asking about like science fiction, because I had suggested to them Way of Kings a long time ago by Brandon Sanderson, like years ago.
Yeah.
And he like finally got to it, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!"
Yeah.
And he's looking for a couple more after, and so I was like, "Did you want more epic fantasy along this kind of line? Are you looking into like more like dark fantasy, that kind of stuff?" And now like I'll usually have at least a couple books or book series along those lines for like kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah. I appreciate that you're thinking about, well, what's going to be approachable enough? Because as you were talking, I was thinking about Flow by, you'll pronounce the name right, Mihai
Csikszentmihalyi.
Yeah, there we go. Look, Google search Flow sports book or whatever, and you'll get there. And how good that book is.
So good.
But I do feel like Chop Wood, Carry Water is a little bit just like I recommended it to, I was like, hey, I haven't recommended this to a preteen before, but I recommended it to a dad and his son who's around 11, 12, because I'm like, this is absolutely very readable, and I'm actually really curious if someone that age would find it valuable. Because when I read those kinds of books, I'm like, man, I almost wish that I had read this when I was in high school, but I don't know that I would have been really open to actually reading it and internalizing it.
Yep.
But yeah, I do feel like Chop Wood, Carry Water is just like such a great, it's drawing from real sports psychology and, stoic strategies, a la Ryan Holiday and such. And so, yeah, that's just a great book.
Yeah. I mean, this could go down a rabbit hole. But
yeah, exactly.
I'll just point this. Flow is one of my favorite books of all time, and I think that one of my principles in life, one of my values, is to try to maximize flow state, positive and legal flow states as much as possible, within context, of course. And that kind of goes back to a topic that we talked about a little bit later, a little while ago, and we'll probably talk about more in depth soon, is competition is the highest state of flow that I can gather. But like, even, I think that's a lot of reason why people really enjoy training jiu-jitsu is it's a really solid flow state. And they're like, just the very, very quick cliff notes is where your skill and the challenge that are addressed to you intersect fairly well, and where like time kind of melts away. It's either going super fast or super slow, but it's like a lot of people call it like in the zone is a good synonym for it. And it's just so good. And like the flow is the exploration of like how Mihaly like, you know, discovered it and really like, you know, quantified or like, and so it's such a good book, but to your point, it's not always approachable to everyone.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're.
So what's your answer? Chop wood, carry water? You're just going to +1 mine?
Way of Kings is a good one too.
But you have to really be into epic
That's
fantasy.
the problem.
It takes a long time.
Especially if you don't buy it digitally and, you know, you pick it up and it's this tome. But man, just so what an incredible fantasy book. And one of the most inspiring fantasy books, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So like that's where I think you read it and you're like, wow.
It is quite inspirational.
Yeah, exactly.
And at least the male voice actor is phenomenal.
Oh, so good.
He's the second best voice actor that I have listened to with books.
Nice. Yeah, I know what your number one is. But anyway, we'll move on. But we could do easily many podcasts on books. For me, sometimes for me to remember them though, I have to like look through my queue, and then I would start to think of them, and I would, you know, especially if someone asked me for recommendations, I like being able to then send them a text later after I've looked through and been like, oh yeah, this one. Because you definitely have that recency bias besides like, you know, a certain few or whatever.
Probably not that surprising for anyone that knows me, as I have a list on spreadsheets of books that I've read. It used to be a lot more. Like my height was, I think, no, I definitely know it was 100 books in 1 year. For several years it was 50. Now it's down to like 10 or something like that. It's not that many. But I'll have a list, and that's easy because I can go by year to year and kind of like remember and whatnot. So like you said, we can riff on this. So if anyone wants any book recommendations or you want us to explore books more, just let us know. Yeah.
All right. We're trying out having kind of a recurring question with, you know, what is one thing that you are currently working on? You know, whether it's technical details, something physical, a concept. What's something that you're working on in the last week or, you know, right now?
I think I'd say trying to really start going with this is prepping for Nogi Worlds. And where that specifically that I want to improve at is my cardiovascular output potential. My cardio. I was loving how you're... Relax. I think, you know, my game feels fairly sharp, and there's certainly things that I'm trying to work on, of course, but I think that is the highest priority, and a little bit of rehab of a couple of different things that are going on. But yeah, I'd say like working on my cardio is something that I'm going to be really leaning into these last slightly over 2 weeks.
Have you been riding the bike? Or
no, that's why I said start.
Starting. Oh, I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
I use this.
I feel the pressure as well. Where, for my answer, do you feel like you've answered sufficiently? Excellent. I think mine is the same thing. I was sick for a little over a week, and man, coming back, I'm just dying. And I feel a little rusty, and so I think. There's like step one of like just get back to training regularly after being sick and having, you know, that kind of like, you just feel, you're okay, I know I'm not sick anymore, but my lung capacity doesn't feel as good. I don't feel quite as sharp, you know, I feel a little washed or what have you. And so just getting back to training regularly. And then in addition, I got back on my weightlifting. That was kind of my first thing. As I was starting to feel better was, okay, I don't know if I'm well enough to go train, and I don't want to spread anything to anybody. So I'll weightlift, you know, and the at the gym at my work and see how I feel. And now it's back to training, and then I want to add on riding the bike, because I totally had a plan to be riding the bike way earlier than now in prep for Nogi World, and has not happened yet. But
today.
maybe not today,
Tomorrow.
but maybe tomorrow. Yeah,
Today.
totally tomorrow.
I did, not that this is sufficient, but I did do a trail run the other day.
Nice.
Just a sprint up a hill. Or we have trails behind, like up the road from us, and the trails are beautiful and gorgeous and very low like there's not that many people that go in there, but you go and it's either this way is uphill or this way is uphill.
Yes.
So I went one way and just like kind of not sprinted, but like, trail ran up the top of it, and it was fun.
Nice. All right, moving along.
Did you do any martial arts before BJJ?
I actually did. I didn't do any grappling before jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu was definitely my first grappling sport. But before I trained, when I was around 11 or 12, my sister and I started training, and actually my mom even jumped into classes at this local martial arts school. They were a karate gym, and they did...
Can she still do katas?
Oh, no. She didn't train very much. Yeah. That would be sick. But they did kind of like American kickboxing and a certain style of karate that I don't remember, Eastern Bakfu, I don't know. And I was training there for about 4 years. I actually made it to purple belt. And once I was in high school, I started using it as my PE credit, because I was a video gamer who wanted to do as little physical activity as possible by that point. And it was pretty cool. And there was definitely a point where I felt pretty strongly that this would simply not work against someone that was vastly larger and stronger than me. And that was hard, And so at one point I said, okay, I'm gonna leave doing this. But I always felt like, I'm gonna go back to martial arts at some point or another. Like I'd like grown up like playing video games and watching Dragon Ball Z and stuff. I was like, the calling is there, and I had never really explored anything like wrestling or and jiu-jitsu wasn't really a thing back then, or at least it was just starting. And I just had no idea that it would like capture me so much, So yeah, what about you?
I did wrestling beforehand. Let's see. Before I started jiu-jitsu, the most immediate sport I played right before jiu-jitsu was hockey. I got into ice hockey. Actually, I got into roller hockey. I was on the UC Davis roller hockey team.
This question is, did you do any martial arts before jiu-jitsu?
Or any other sports?
Oh,
there's a second part.
Can
you read?
I can't.
There's a two-part question.
Oh, okay. Whoops, I forgot the second part. All right, I'll come back to it.
And so I played roller for a year at UC Davis, where I went to school. And then I came back. I liked roller. It was really fun, but I didn't love it. And then I played ice hockey, which I was never that good at, beer league level, but it made a lot more sense.
What did you like more about ice hockey than roller hockey?
So you have 5 people, and the rink is bigger rather than 4 people. And some of the mechanics around stopping and that kind of stuff were just easier for me to conceptualize in ice hockey. And I had like the Sharks, NHL to like watch. And what I would do, because I was like a pretty big fan, I was like a super fan, but I was a pretty big fan. We had season tickets for a little while of the Sharks. Cool. And what I would do is I would be like, I'm generally a right winger. Sometimes I'll play left wing, which is on the offense. And I would just, instead of watching all of the stuff, I'd watch what they're doing. When the puck's down low, he's cycling back up high, or like, he's trailing so he can get passed back to, stuff like that. So it's easier for me to like, without actually going to practices and like, starting when I was in high school or whatever, like quickly build a lot of hockey IQ. And so like I had a lot of grit and a lot of like reasonably good hockey IQ, but some of my like stick handling and other things were like pretty not good. But I had a lot of fun, and especially when I would play like with my best friend back then, James Park. It was just so much fun, because then I can really feed off of him. Like we had like a good synergy just because we were really good friends, but also like I could trust in his reactions to be very logical. Anyway, I did wrestling in high school and a little bit in college. That's where I met Morgan, which we're going to be interviewing soon, hopefully. And I did it in high school. And I also, before that, and kind of one of the reasons I got into wrestling, or like really like dove into wrestling, is I played baseball and basketball and stuff, like, you know, some of the more traditional sports. And like luck would have it, I was always on like the worst team. Like I think back-to-back years in baseball, and this is like, I don't know, 7th, 8th grade or whatever, we didn't win a single game.
See, I was listening to you, and I was thinking about how you were talking about hockey and, you know, watching the one player. I feel like that team sport of understanding what everybody is doing at once and being able to make predictions based on that, it's not something that I really understood until I've a little, you know, now that I'm older and talking more to like people like you and just others, you know, and I don't know if that was that as a young kid that just didn't make sense to me, or if I didn't really have good coaching. Like I played soccer basically, you know, kindergarten through 8th grade. And I liked it, but I didn't love it. And luckily I was on a team where our forwards were really good, and I played left fullback, which I didn't really understand. Someone was like, oh, that makes perfect sense for you, that's like the bruiser position. I'm like, oh, there we go. And what I needed to do was very clear: don't let the ball continue to escalate past me, you know. And so so I think there's something to be said about like the personality and are you feeling team sports more, or like some people, they start jiu-jitsu and maybe, you know, this, I see this a lot more for kids where they've maybe never done other sports or not had a lot of fun or success, and then here's the thing where, oh, I can have a lot more agency in my success, and that tends to feel really good.
I will say that, like, again, whether like I had the right coaching or whatnot, or I think I was similar in that a lot of team sports didn't really make that much sense to me either. Like in basketball, like I was not very good either. You know?
My God, I tried basketball once and was just completely lost and just like, I hate this. Don't make me go again.
And baseball is like, it's like a very individual but team sport. That's a little bit different. And I was like okay-ish, but not really. I was like the game didn't make that much sense to me now. Like I get how to play or whatever, but like it didn't really click. I'd say with hockey, like being really mindful and the pattern recognition, that kind of stuff, was after I reformed, I would say, like my approach to learning. And that's probably another discussion. Shout out to Josh Waitzkin's book, The Art of Learning, and a couple other things where I figured out how to learn from my own, like, you know, what I have natural proclivities for, and various different approaches. And so like that's also probably shown in jiu-jitsu.
Well, that's one thing that I know you've talked to me about, how when you were in high school, you had like a coach wrestling, but not really a lot of coaching. And so it's interesting that you're like, well, later I kind of figured out how to learn these team sports, but it seems like even early on you were having to figure out how to, you know, optimize your game and how to compete in this very tough sport. Yeah,
so that's a really good segue into. So first of all, like my coaches in high school, I had two major coaches. In the first part, a little bit more of the technique and stuff like that, but I came in kind of like as a sophomore in San Lorenzo Valley High School. I went to Sonora High School and then San Lorenzo Valley High School, both in California, if you're not familiar. One in the mountains, and the other one's in the mountains of Santa Cruz. And, you know, they're all of my coaches, the head coaches and the assistant coaches, were wonderful people. They're really, really caring and great and stuff. But I think that lacked some of like the technical guidance that I would have really liked, or I think that could have really served me well. So like, I don't want to put it on that. That's such a hard space to be at, because, you know, being a high school coach in a program that's not like actually paying good money to the coaches is really hard, and that's most of them. And so they did their best, and I'm very, very appreciative of them. They're very supportive in a lot of ways. But yeah, I didn't have that much guidance in the coaching aspect, and so I would just put in work. And so I realized that I was not that technical, and I probably wasn't going to get super technical on my own. So I would just put in lots of work.
What does that mean?
So I had a pact with myself that I would never break in a match, and that would be like you giving up. I would never break in a match, and I would never be outworked in a match, period. Whether I'm up by 14 points in high school, 15 points is a technical fall, or I'm down by 14 points, I am bringing every ounce that I had. And so a lot of my training was like grit and mindset and toughness, and I would do my practice, and then I would run home. And I lived, I think it was like 7 miles home. And so I'd run home uphill all the time.
Gnarly.
And like on off days, I would go on a run, or go, do pull-ups for, different pull-ups, different configurations until my arms felt like they're going to fall off. Like one fun story is on my senior year, Thanksgiving, my dad was working, and so I'm like home alone, and I'm not planned at all. I woke up and I was like, I should run a marathon. And so I was like, all right. And so I just got my shoes on and had like no prep, no plan. I didn't have a phone on me. Like I just ran. No iPod, no music. I just ran. I mapped it out to where I would need to go. And it was this taqueria in Scotts Valley. So I was up in Boulder Creek in the mountains of Santa Cruz. And I'd run down. It was 13.1 miles. And I just asked for some water there, and then I ran up. Very slow, but like I did it, and it was completely unprompted. And it was just like me embracing doing really hard things. And that like when I would wrestle, like no one's putting me through worse stuff than I have already put myself through. And there's many, many matches that I won that, from a technical perspective, I have no business winning. But from just a great, I'm going to outwork you until you give up, I won a lot of those matches.
Nice.
How did you get started with jiu-jitsu?
So, as I mentioned before, I had done some martial arts, and I was always kind of in the back of my head that I was going to get into it again at some point. And when I was in college, I had started lifting weights. Luckily I was at a college with a pretty sweet weight room and all that kind of stuff. And I was starting, especially by junior and senior year, again, like avid gamer, but starting to see that like, oh, I feel better when I like get a workout in, or when I go for a much shorter run than what David has described, because running and cardio and me, Oh,
I don't do that shit now. There's no way. That was like Psycho Dave. Like just dealing with trauma through like masochistic tendencies.
We do what we gotta do.
Do what we gotta do.
Exactly. So I was making that connection of like, oh, being physical feels good, and I'm kind of wanting to invest more in this. And in my senior year of college, I was slowly becoming more and more disenfranchised with my plan of like getting a degree in game art and design, and then going into that field to work in it. And so by my senior year, I was like, I'm not going to try to get a job like straight out of college. I mean, I like get a job in something else, but I need a break from like staring at a computer screen for 15 hours a day. Like, this is awful. I really need to like step away from this for a while. So I was going to plan a solo trip to Central and South America, where I was going to do woofing, which is worldwide organized organic farming, where you get to stay at, someone's farm or, sustainable ranch or whatever for free, and you get to help them with, work around that. And I thought that because I happened to take Geo 1 or Earth Science 1 in my senior year, and the teacher was really good, and the class just really spoke to me. I was just like, no, why haven't I been studying this all along? And I had dabbled in it. Like, I had taken a sweet natural disasters course, but the teacher was so monotone and so boring. I'm like, how are you making volcanoes boring, bro? So and I was starting to feel that pull towards like sustainability and environmental science and stuff. So I was like, oh, this could be my way to still get experience and learn about how to do this outside of my schooling, and just a chance to like be outside a lot. My Spanish was like, mediocre, but like pretty good. So I was like, oh, I get to do that. And so long story short, as I was planning this trip, I was like, I should really get my self-defense, like kind of back up to speed, like I'll be traveling solo as a lady. Like that's, like I should do some self-defense. And so I just Google searched like, martial arts gyms in my area or something, and looked at the various options and basically chose the one that looked like the most professional. And my friend was actually going to do the free class with me. And they had kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. And so I was like, okay, I kind of already know a little bit of kickboxing, so I'll watch that class and then I'll try this jiu-jitsu thing. And the kickboxing, I was like, that looks okay. Just me being a snob and like having no idea like the level of like skill that I was seeing. And then the jiu-jitsu was just like so like different and like kind of awkward, like of just like, okay, like they're teaching like an UPA, like mount bridge escape. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, okay, let me give this a shot, So I think I was starting to train, and I started to stay after the fundamentals class to watch the advanced class. And I was feeling it like start to like, oh, this is like really cool. And then by about 4 months in, there was this small tournament. It was called Rumble in the Redwoods. I don't think it exists now, unfortunately, but they were really cool. It was like a small, like sweet little tournament.
Once,
yeah,
or
dude.
Twice.
Yeah. And it was my first tournament, and I like sloppy white belt style, I guillotined the first chick, and then my story with the second match is that
your story? You're making this up?
My brief story. No. My So my brief story is that I'm like, bad white belt, like trying to do takedowns with this other girl, and I remember she started to take me down, and I didn't see red, but like everything went black, and all I remember was hearing like, you're in mount, like slow down or something like that. And I was just like on top of mount, like there. I don't know how I got there. I just like went feral and like feral, rabid possum.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember, just being like, I'm not going down. And like somehow clawing my way to victory. And I armbarred her, which was just like glorious. And so I really got that like, like that, Highlander, like you absorb their powers, like moment, like twice. And then I basically I canceled all my plans and was like, the journey happens at home, and the rest is history. How did you get started with jiu-jitsu, David?
So I had graduated college, and like I mentioned earlier, I was playing hockey, and I felt like I had unfinished business with wrestling. I felt like I didn't reach my potential, and I was trying to like get back into wrestling, but it's, and I was helping out with some of the wrestling classes at AK Sunnyvale back in the day, and then I was also helping as like an assistant coach with one of the high schools down in the South Bay.
How did you end up helping as a wrestling coach at AK Sunnyvale? Like, did you just email them like, hey, I have wrestling experience, like, do you guys want like a wrestling coach?
No. Mm-hmm. So there was already a wrestling coach there. Mm-hmm. And that's a really good question. I don't even remember how I got in with Ian Bork. Mm-hmm. Super nice guy. He was from he went to Stanford, and I think I might have just like tried to find a wrestling class and like went to it. I think maybe I think that's probably what I did, and it was like close to where I was living at the time, and so I went there and then like became friends and stuff like that because I was good enough in wrestling that I was pretty good, not like a super elite, but I was like pretty good. Like I could beat national champions, that I could like do pretty well at big tournaments and stuff like that. I have a really funny story. There's so many good stories. Anyway, so I started there, and then I was like helping out a little bit, and then I was helping out assistant coach at the high school, and like, you know, some pretty good kids there, but like I'm a grown ass man, you know, and I'm like pretty difficult to deal with. I have like a very interesting style.
Mantis shrimp style.
Yes. And it was also like kind of hard on the body if you're only doing it once or twice a week or whatever. And I wanted something a little bit more consistent. And also like MMA, wrestling, usually those like programs, like no offense to any of them, but like they're usually not very good wrestlers. And so I was like, oh, like I want something that's a little bit more consistent, a little bit more challenging. And my buddy Ian had, you know, competed at the US Open and he won. And then there's another assistant coach. He had competed at the next year at the U.S. Open and won. And then Ian's basically like, okay, it's your turn. He's like, try jiu-jitsu. And so I started, and I was like, okay, I'll put on the pajamas and see if I like it. And I, you know, was pretty competitive early on. I enjoyed it. And then, and sure enough, about 4.5, 5 months into my journey, I went to the U.S. Open and won it. I had 6 matches and 6 chokes, submissions. It was a lot of matches. And then I got my blue belt right after. But yeah, I started by, you know, just helping out with wrestling and just looking for something else, and kind of hopped into it. So it was cool. It was a very fortuitous entry, and yeah.
Nice.
All right. Who are you outside of your jiu-jitsu career?
I think I started to talk about this a little bit where, you know, one of my main backgrounds was being a video gamer. And I really identified with that pretty hard all through high school and through college. And I do a little bit, but, you know, we play video games maybe all of like, you know, an hour or two or a little more if the kid's around and she wants to play something ridiculous or whatever. Like now it's more something that I share with the kid than something that I do on my own. Like once in a while I'll get really caught up in something. Like we were on a Marvel Rivals binge for a pretty long time. But I really appreciate what it taught me about flow states, honestly, and about, you know, how to keep someone engaged and how to pace difficulty levels. And one of the things that I will say is that coming from games where I remember in classes we were talking about how if you want to teach someone how to play your game, one of the least engaging ways to do it is to have them have to read text or watch a video of how to do it. And then I come into jiu-jitsu and I start thinking about, you know, eventually I start thinking about like teaching kids and teaching the women's class and stuff. And I'm like, jiu-jitsu is literally the least engaging way that you can instruct people, you know, of like, you sit, you try to watch me and try to listen to the words I'm saying. And hopefully when we clap, you will remember the things and then be able to integrate them. And so, I don't know, I always thought that was interesting where, and I think a lot of modern coaching, they've seen that, you know, I mean, I think that's the essence of CLA is they're realizing, hey, you know, learning through a more interactive method is going to be more engaging and it's going to create better, you know, body, body, like physical connections, physical mental connections. And so it's interesting seeing people try to figure out how do we teach this thing. You know, karate, you can have, okay, everyone line up and we're all doing it at the same time together and we're using sound effects. Like all that, that's very like silly, but yo, I still got it. Still got it. That's like very compelling though, you know, and you engage in that group flow state of we're all doing the same thing at once. And jiu-jitsu is so complex that it's hard to do that. So I really, so I know we diverted a little bit. But I think that's, that's informed a lot about how I approach jiu-jitsu. And I just remember playing tons of fighting games with my friends at lunch. We were playing, Smash Brothers on the GameCube. We were playing Soul Calibur 2. We were playing Guilty Gear. And just how much fun that was, of even when it wasn't your turn to play, of watching and joking. And so the vibes of training, it really spoke to me. And I like that, hey, I'm going to this place and this place has my social scene. That speaks to me as well. And it's just like...
But what are you outside of jiu-jitsu?
Outside of jiu-jitsu?
Yes.
No, and so that's a big part of me. I would say too, that like just enjoying, that enjoying like nature, and that's something that you've really brought back for me. Like when I was 7, I had been watching so much like Animal Planet and Steve Irwin and Jeff Corwin that I told my parents, like, I want to be a venom researcher, because I thought that way I would get to handle like venomous snakes all day, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. And that informs a lot of me now, and especially it comes into like me being a parent, is one of the biggest parts of me outside of jiu-jitsu, where a lot of it is like, oh, what can I share with the kid? And for us, a big flow state is like getting to go and flip logs and like find cool salamanders and things under them, and learning about them and appreciating, like, man, we live in such a cool area. Like, we're very lucky to get to see just such a breadth of flora and fauna around us. So yeah, I would say those are kind of some of the pillars of who I am, of like, this like kind of gaming thing. And even it's funny where the kid, she sometimes likes gaming in certain things, but I'm like, oh, there's a tetherball, like, let's play. Like, oh, there's, this other, let's play a board game, let's do the thing, and sometimes that does not speak to her as much. So yeah, I would say that, and like the nature and the parentingness, and yeah, all those things. I don't know, am I missing anything?
I'd say you're very artistic and creative as well. I think that's like an area where you might not explore as much, and you might not like do as much, but like you have a lot of creativity and like not only like aesthetic eyes, like you have a good sense of those. Whether it's like being an artist, because some of your drawings and whatnot is like really beautiful, but also like you're a great singer, and you are creative in various different like approaches, whether it's like doing a last minute Halloween costume for the kid, and eating into your your sleep and whatnot for that. But like I think that comes out in various different ways. But I'd say that's something that I would say it's a core component of like who you are.
Thanks for mentioning that. I remember a conversation I had with someone where they had done a lot of different visual arts in high school, and they were saying, I think something along the lines of, oh, I feel kind of guilty for not drawing and painting anymore. And I sometimes feel that as well, where I'm like, oh, it's really hard for me to do those things without like a class that I'm going to that's saying, here's an assignment that you have to do. But I'm also telling myself like, hey, right now, jiu-jitsu is like such a big expression of that. It's where you get to be creative and where you get to have a lot of personal flavor on things. And so I'm like, hey, like, don't worry, it'll come back around when it's meant to come back around. And so part of me, sometimes I look forward to, being too old to train the way I want to, because I'm like, that's when I'll
Two more years.
No, in like my 50s, my 60s or whatever, when I maybe can't train like 5 or 6 times a week or whatever, that's when I'm planning on, okay, that's when I'll, jump back into like this art class or that, or,
You're also a really good writer.
My time to it. Oh, thank you.
Yes,
thanks.
I think writing is also an area where I'll be, certainly no pressure on it, but I'll be excited to see you explore more.
Yeah, totally. I think I appreciate you bringing those up, because I think part of where we're talking about this is that I think it's important to have identities outside of jiu-jitsu and things that you're maybe looking forward to for when your body can't like train as much as you're like wanting it to, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really like exactly what you just said. It's really important to have things outside of jiu-jitsu. I think, if you're an adult, like trying to get, black belt or like on the
Hey, you're
ADC
competing
circuit,
in the adult professional circuit. You're
you
that's a
kinda
chunk
need-
of your life where it's
and
gonna
I
be
still
the
think
main
that there's
thing,
a good amount of, you still need something outside of it. I think even then, but like that could be like, it consumes more of your world.
Yeah.
I think it's, I had a conversation many years ago with our buddy Ramin, and one of the things that we were talking about is like, this could get taken away from you at any time.
Yeah. Yep.
And so you need to be able to say goodbye to being able to train, and it's like, if all of your identity or all of your self-value or where you get your therapy or whatever it is all wrapped up in jiu-jitsu, that poses a potential problem,
Yeah.
and I think that maybe I overcorrected for that, but that's a different discussion. But I think it's really important to have like, I wouldn't even say balance, because like you're saying, like, hey, if you're trying to be on the professional circuit, like much of your life, if it's,
you're going
athlete,
to need to be unbalanced.
it's gonna, but it's, can you find harmony?
Yeah.
And I think the harmony for your moment in life is what makes sense. And like, so for me, like, I have a family life. I have my animals that I like to take care of and spend time with. I have, business ventures or job and nature and, giving back to society in however small, many ways that I can. And so it's important for me to be able to find harmony that changes over time, because like sometimes it's like, hey, work is crazy and I got to put more of myself into that. And so jiu-jitsu comes off and I think one of the, challenges with especially like hardcore corporate life is that it doesn't really give you that option to really have harmony.
Yeah.
And it kind of forces an unbalance that you might not really enjoy that much. And that's one thing that's, I'm still trying to like get all settled in after Google and stuff like that. And I'm super appreciative and loved a lot of the aspects of it, but I think it was time to try to find an ability to get more harmony in areas where I'd like to explore a little bit. So I think, outside of jiu-jitsu, I feel like I'm someone that is compassionate and empathetic, especially towards animals, whether it be helping out with animal shelters with walking dogs or fostering or just loving all my animals. I used to also watch Steve Irwin and Animal Planet and Nature, all those nature shows all the time. I could rattle off all kinds of different facts about that, and I really deeply care. And I keep trying to find ways to get back into whether it's conservation or whatnot. And also, like you're saying, is like going out and flipping longs and finding critters. And I think one of the things that is slightly different about me is I really like to provide the wonder and unlock the wonder. And so for me, like, climbing up on that hillside to be able to like lift a log that's up, tucked away, but then it has like a scorpion underneath it. And I can like call you guys over and like see you guys get excited. Like, that's cool. Or if like we're on a trail and I see something interesting, like in the water, like a newt or salamander or something like that. If there's like, especially if there's like a kid walking by, I'm like, I want to like, hey, do you like newts? And like pass that along. Which kind of can get a little bit weird, but
it's
like,
funny where it feels a little weird, but I think what we imagine is if I was walking along, I would want to know that there's a salamander there. And so maybe this is a little strange, but 99% of the time, people, especially kids are stoked. Yeah.
They
might be a little
stoked.
like nervous,
they might not want to touch it or whatever, but they're like, they're going to be excited to see it. Yeah.
And then we get mad if someone's like, oh, and not excited. We're just like, can you believe those people? Oh my God. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It's like, I think that this is going to be a slight tangent, but I think that one thing that makes me sad about a lot of humans, and I'm guilty of this too, so like I'm certainly not, but I try to find small wonders in life, like still be like excited about pausing and looking up and be like, oh, like the way that the sun is hitting these trees is just beautiful. And so I think, maybe I'm a hopeless romantic or something like that, and that I really like to um, try, and again, I struggle with this sometimes, try to enjoy my life around me, especially as it relates to nature and animals and that kind of stuff.
I think for a while we were on kind of I hate the term for this genre, but the self-help genre kind of kick. And I think that came from one of the books that we read, which was The Nature Fix. There we go.
Fix, yes.
Nature Fix. I think they talked, there were enough things we saw in that book and a few others where trying to find and create those moments of small wonder has such great psychological impacts that I think that's where we were like, oh, and we kind of started to double down, and it does feel really good, and it feels nice to get to, enjoy. I don't know, just
it feels
like
good to me, especially to share.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
they're like, I'm definitely a giver in a lot of ways, and that like feels really good to me, is to be able to like share and like unlock that wonder. I would say that I am a very curious person. I like to learn. Whether jiu-jitsu, sure, but like outside of that, I'm voracious and just learning about random stuff, and I'll jump on one line of topic and consume a lot of content on that, and I just I like learning lots of interesting things. I like to be able to be armed with enough to have coherent conversations with experts.
Yes.
Yay.
Cat sighting.
Yay. Bye, cat.
Andy's out.
Andy's gone. All right, let's move on. Were there any people along the way that inspired you? However you want to determine that. What did they say, or how did they help you?
I just clarify, along the way in your jiu-jitsu journey. Oh,
You
you're
can
going.
how-
Oh, okay.
You can do whatever you want.
All right. Okay. Interesting.
You can take it as jiu-jitsu journey.
Sure. I'm framing it in the context of jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is just wild, where you're like, oh, this was just going to take me like 10 years to get to black belt, and then I'm still just learning new stuff.
10 years?
For some people, for us slower people.
You mere mortals.
Yes, us mere mortals.
I joke because I got mine in 6.5 years.
So I would say along the way, I was generally inspired by like the other women that were already ahead of me. Like it was really cool to see that. And one of the things I was taking away from like the sports psychology kind of books and such was I was watching these other female competitors and watching how they compose themselves and how they got ready for matches and what they were like in the bullpen. And so, just seeing them further along was like, oh, I can do that too. And whenever I did a lot of, seminars, and I did like a retreat here and there, and just so many of the women that I interacted with were really cool, and they're really nice and happy to get to share. And that was like, oh, I want to be doing that someday. But there was one definitely like notable moment that I had where I got pregnant I discovered I was pregnant after I took silver at Pan Am's at Blue Belt adult. And it had maybe been a year or two since then. So I was now a purple belt. And when I learned that I was pregnant, I was kind of like, in learning this, I'm letting go of my like competition dreams, like I'm not trying to be adult world champion anymore. I'm choosing like a different path because that was what I felt like I needed to do. But I was back in training. Of course I had to train because otherwise I'd lose my mind. And I was doing a seminar with Jazari Matuda, who was at one point a featherweight world champ. And it was really cool. And she like trained with all of us, and she showed some really cool tech. And I happened to be chatting with her after, and I was like, oh yeah, like I let go of like trying to, go on that competitor path after, I was older then. I think I was like 26, 27 by the time I was having this conversation. And I'm telling her about that, kind of my quick story. And she's like, nah, like you can, oh, there's our alarm. Damn it. Okay. I'm telling her my quick story and she's like, no, like you can still do it. And I'm like, oh no, I can't. And she's like, no, like you still have time. Like you can still do it. And I was like, oh no, whatever. She's just saying that. But then like I was thinking about it as I was like driving home in the car from some gym, like, an hour and a half away from where I lived or whatever. And I was like totally like, I started crying. I was just like, man, I can still do it. And it really like, it's one of those like I don't know if she ever knows, shout out to Jazari if she ever sees this, but like how impactful that was for me, And I think within a year I competed again at one of BJJ Tour's tournaments. And I beat one chick and I lost by like points to the other. And eventually I was back competing at adult. And I fought, eventually, and you really helped me keep on it too, where I was fighting like Jessie Kahn and Amy Campo at purple belt and other women that had, medaled at like the highest level. And I don't know that without hearing it from someone who I could trust to know how hard it is to do that, that I would have gotten back in the way that I did. And it's just really cool where you can know, hey, like sometimes that little moment can really alter the course of how they're doing things or how they think about themselves. And so, yeah, so that was a really, I really appreciate, those brief words and how much in the women's community we're telling each other, like, hey, you can do this too, So, yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah. And I really appreciate you as well, because there were definitely times as a purple belt, when David met me, we met each other in 2018 when I was a purple belt, and I was having a really hard time. I was in the midst of transitioning gyms, and I had already been purple for a bunch of time, but I wasn't necessarily, the grit that had carried me through the earlier belts was no longer enough to, be winning consistently. And it was a really hard time. And I really appreciated how encouraging you were for me to compete, and how you as a dude also believed in me, so shout out to you too.
Sweet. Shout out to the cat. He's hanging out.
Yeah, yes, we get cat time.
All right. So, I mean, there's been so many people that inspired me in small and big ways. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that we can keep addressing. I'm gonna go with my 8th grade teacher. So he was actually also my, maybe 6th grade or 5th grade teacher or whatever. Jim Micheletti. I've actually tried to find him. I can't find him because I wanted to reach out and thank him and stuff. But
nice.
I had trouble through school. I'm very bright, but there's also a lot of things that were challenging for many different reasons. But he was able to identify my potential, but also that I needed something different than just the mainstream schooling. And so in 8th grade, he actually started, this is at Twain Harte up in the mountains of California, roughly sort of ish close to Yosemite. And he started a little academy of 13 kids from 6th to 8th grade. And this is when I was in 8th grade. And I was struggling through school. I almost didn't pass that 5th or 6th grade. I almost failed. And he took it upon himself to work with me, get my homework, make sure talk to my different teachers to make sure I knew what I needed to do to get at least a passing grade. And then he brought me into what was called Twain Harte Academy. And he was very patient and, really did a good job of putting scaffolding together for the group. And, these were the kids that, probably if there's like the outcasts of various different ways were in there, um, and I remember he really like challenged me and pushed me, but also supported me in a lot of different ways, and it was probably the most impactful academic thing that I had happen in my life. I've had quite a few wonderful teachers along the way, but that like really started it all, I think. And so I think he like either reignited or ignited like my love of learning, and like really challenged me to reach more of my potential. And so I think that was like really impactful and like put me on a really good trajectory in life in various different ways.
I remember you telling me about a switch over that you had at one point where I don't remember if this came from him or from you internally, where you were like, why can't I do this?
No, that was actually shout out to Mr. Doder. His name that was his name. He taught. This was so that was 8th grade, and then I went to Sonora High School, which is up in that area. And freshman year, you take this class there. I don't know what it would be considered. It's kind of like a life skills class. Like it talks about like driving and like I think it used to even be like the basics of like how to fill out taxes, and I think there was one thing, it was like how to fill out an application for a job or something like that. Nice. And like I didn't do it. And like I ended up getting I think a C in that class or whatever. And I was doing really well in other classes, so like my overall GPA was not bad. Like maybe like a 3.17 or something like that, where it was, but it was just like I just didn't do it, you know. And I was doing fairly well in other classes, and I remember, you got their like semester or whatever it was report cards, and as I was walking out, it was like almost an offhand comment, and he just like looks at me, he's like, David, and he like kind of shakes his head a little bit, and he's like, why can't you do better? And that was it. That was the entire conversation, and like I took that to heart. I was like, yeah, why can't I? And it wasn't, he didn't give me a big lecture or anything. It was just one quick phrase, and for some reason it just resonated so strongly with me, because it was like I cared about learning, I cared about school, but not really. You
cared about the subjects that you really cared about.
And then it was like, I was in like honors physical science and biology and these other things, and I remember I was like, I went home and it like gnawed at me.
Yeah, that's
for
so wild.
So like I was just like sitting there, like I was almost kind of like I imagine, I don't remember it that much, but I imagine like, there's like there's usually like in an action movie or whatever where like someone's like, yeah, I'm gonna, they start hyping themselves up from like a little bit, and they just get to this crescendo or whatever. And then I had straight A's from then on. Like I didn't even have anything close. It was straight A's. I ended up graduating with a 4.17 GPA. I passed, like I did like a lot of like AP classes, and I was like a AP honors whatever, because I had 4s and 5s in all of them that I took, and it was like, yes, I'm fairly intelligent and able to learn, but there needed to be the effort, that kind of like that grit to go through school, especially as like, someone that's neurodivergent, that, I struggle with certain aspects of class and schools and stuff like that. And so it was like a good, he's someone else I've like looked at to try to look up, to like try to find and stuff like that, because there was just this one, and I think it was like he like ninja'd me. Yeah, I think he like might have known that was the way to approach that with me, and that was like with Micheletti kind of going in and like kindling it, and that is like almost like pouring gas on it. Yeah, and like I was so disciplined, so committed to like school, and then like I glommed onto that effort level for wrestling too. Like I put so much effort into, and that was like my way of escaping all the other stuff with my life and whatnot. And so like, yeah, I think that was such an impactful, you know, couple words.
Yeah.
And that was really,
wild.
yeah, it was really, really wild. And it was really cool that like I was receptive enough, and I don't know what it was, but there was fertile ground that took root and grew. And so that was really cool. I think that was like one defining moment in my life that like really like reshaped and reformed like what effort is and what like why not try hard, because like you're gonna get out what you put in, and that the only limitations in something like that is your own self limitations.
Yeah.
Obviously, like your circumstances and obstacles that run into your way and stuff like that are gonna sometimes luck and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like you can control your effort and you can control what you put in, and that like transcended even like when I was working in housekeeping, overnight houseman, and I would like, hey, like this isn't where I want to be at in life, of course, but it's like I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to try to learn as much as I can, and good things will happen if I keep working hard and being open to opportunities. And then I went in banquets, and then I was in in the restaurant, and then I was like, I'm working hard, and I'm also going to do schooling. And I'm also going to take my CPA exams. And I'm also going to keep trying to find avenues. And then from that, it's like I got into Google and so on and so forth, and kept working diligently and working hard and getting support along the way in the right ways and the right people. And I'm just truly thankful for some people along my path and my life that have been there for me, and I've certainly had to fight tooth and nail, but also no one does it alone. And there's different people during your life that offer different things, and you need to be open to it. And so I
think that's a good note to close on. And we got the cat.
Pretty finally sweet. Made his appearance.
Yes.
So, if you're still here, thank you for tuning into another episode of Jiu Jitsu Ponderings. And of course, always, if you guys have any feedback, we greatly appreciate it. Or if you have any questions that you want us to explore, feel free to send us a message or put in the comments. And thank you again for all of your time and support to everyone out there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful day.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do that. And share.
And share.
And comment. And download. And
Yeah.
Do all the things, like and subscribe.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Kitty. Meow, meow.